Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, if I might. Good morning and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment Hearings for Rural, Panel 3. We are a City of Ottawa quasi judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including our minor variances to the zoning requirements and consent to sever land. Our hearings are now in person at Ben Franklin Place, 101 Centerpoint Drive. We also enable remote participation by video conferencing for our registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube, and the video will be archived and available for future viewing by the public. My name is Bill Hunter. I'll be chairing today's hearings, and you can address me by my name or as chair. With me are the panel members. On my far left, Jocelyn Chander. Next to her, Terry Otto. On my near right, Martha Vervoort. And then on my far right, Beth Henderson. The procedure for the hearings will be as follows. Listed on the agenda and appearing on screen from time to time are the applications we'll hear today. For the sake of efficiency, I may deal with agenda items in a different order. Panel members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition to each of the applications. Today, we'll hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. Each applicant has posted a sign on the property advising of this hearing, and they have met that term and condition. The panel may ask for a brief presentation of an application followed by questions for the applicant and city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who have registered to speak, and we may also have questions for them. Finally, the applicant, who has the burden of proof, will have an opportunity to make final comments in reply. Please address your comments to me as the chair, stating your name, spelling if necessary, and your address for the record. All presentations are limited to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at my discretion. At the end of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means it won't be delivered today. In either case, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send the official written decision and reasons for it to all the parties, participants, and anyone else who has requested a copy. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure we will be following today? Okay, there being no questions, we have several applications to hear today, but first we need to deal with some preliminary and procedural matters. Are there any declarations of interest? No? There are none? Are there any items that are being withdrawn? No, there are none. Okay. So let's proceed and have a look at the agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There are minutes to adopt.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Minutes of, I believe, June 6th. June 6th. And what is the other?
June the 12th.
June 6th and June 20th.
20th. Okay. Are there any comments on any of those members of the panel? Ms. Chandler.
I was not here for the June 20th meeting, so I won't be voting on those minutes.
Okay. Any other comments? Members?
I wasn't here.
Sorry, I wasn't here for the last two meetings, so I can't approve the minutes.
Okay. Any other comments, members of the panel? No? Okay. Are the minutes approved? Yes, they are. Thank you very much. Okay, moving to the items, we have 3 items today. I would like to deal with item number 2 first, which is 1222 Century. Dennis Riopel is representing the applicants for that. And I'm asking, I think Mr. Riopel is online. Is that correct?
No, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it's the owner's solicitor who probably is online, Mr. Robert Baldwin.
Robert Baldwin's online.
He's supposed to be online.
Okay, well, would you like to make an opening statement, sir? You have to come forward and speak into the microphone.
Okay,
Okay, if you wouldn't mind.
Yep, I see microphone. My voice went very. Right. One more. Right here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Dennis Repel.
You can have a seat
I,
if you want, sir.
I'm sorry.
You can have a seat if you wish.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes.
Thank you. I've met Maxim a few times. He was very helpful. Thank you. I'm actually not really representing, but Jacqueline and Giuliano Baselli are friends of ours. And so they've asked me, they're an older couple, and they've asked me to, back in 2021, and I didn't know all of the work I had to do for them. They wanted to sever their property. They have a property on Century Road. And as Giuliano had said, you know, they're getting older now, they're in their 80s. As the letter, the covering, I don't know if anybody has seen the covering letter, but it essentially it states that should something happen to one of the spouses, Giuliano had said, you know, the house would be sold because it would provide a support for the living spouse. The balance of the vacant land will remain with the family. That's what they wanted to do. And so, you know, all of the work I've done, I've prepared all the documentation, and thank you for Maxim for all your help, because it's not easy. It was my first time. But that said, I'm just hoping that, you know, this covering letter was signed by Jacqueline Baselli as well. And so they're hoping to sever that property. As I said, in case something does happen to one of them, they'll be able to at least sell that portion, which will be probably help them support the other spouse. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Rico? I see we have Josh Rocklam and
I just
Robert
pushed this
Baldwin.
button.
I see we have Josh Blockus and Robert Baldwin online. Do they want to speak to any part of this? Okay, there being no indication they want to speak to it. Planning Department, have you any questions or comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no comments or concerns from us.
Okay, members of the panel, any questions, comments?
My only question is whether or not the applicant agrees to the proposed conditions.
Wonder if you could advise, sir.
Sorry?
There is a question from Mr. Vervoort, and he would like to have you confirm that you agree to the proposed conditions.
Yes, I believe everything is okay.
Everything's okay, so there's no changes.
I did speak with Robert Baldwin. He said that there should not be.
Okay, do we need to have that on microphone? Do we need to have that on microphone?
I believe the room may have picked it up.
I'm going to say. Go back.
Just for certainty's sake, because there are online persons and.
Yes, I believe that I did speak with Robert Baldwin, and he said that they would probably agree to, I believe it was some of the conditions that was mentioned. So he said this probably would be fine with the Basellis.
Sorry, he agreed with some of the conditions?
He agreed with
All
the
of the
conditions was sent in the letter, right?
Yes, all of the conditions.
Right.
Yes, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
Members of the panel, any other questions at all? Did we vote on this? Granted? Granted? Yes, it's granted. Thank you very much. It's granted. The application is granted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, could we move to item number 1500 Thomas Argue?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Miranda Virginello. I'm a planner at Novatech, and I'm joined today by my colleague Greg Winters, who's also a planner and director at Novatech.
Could you pull the microphone a little closer to yourself?
Absolutely.
That's better. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and address it?
Sure. Will the committee be requiring a full presentation today?
I don't believe so. Just anything that you feel inclined, you should point out to us. We have read the reports, as I indicated at the outset. So it's not like we are totally new to this application. So if you would like to indicate what you feel might be helpful to us, that would be wonderful.
Okay, certainly. I believe we have a brief technical housekeeping amendment on the notice. It was circulated with reference to win over private, which should instead read wing over private. So we're just adding a G in the middle of the word.
Okay.
So the applications in front of you today are for severance and easement for the property municipally known as 1500 Thomas Argue Road or the Carp Airport. We'll take our time today to briefly address some of the conditions that were outlined in staff's comments. So I believe in discussions that we've had with city staff, there's been discussions about removing conditions 3, 6, and 7, and then briefly this morning, discussions about removing condition 2.
Sorry, number 2 as well?
Number 2 as well, yes.
That wasn't in the material that I saw anyway.
No, it was a discussion earlier this morning. Condition number 2 is requested to remove as part of a site plan review process. Geotechnical report could be requested and addressed at that point.
Okay.
Just to add to that, Mr. Chair, it's because the requirement is asking for a notice on title that there may be sensitive marine soils. And as we know, the city of Ottawa is full of marine soils. It's throughout the entire Ottawa Valley here. And so it's a pretty standard condition that we deal with on sites. And we know that this application will go through a further site plan application, in which case the city of Ottawa standard requirement is a geotechnical report to address all known conditions on the site for dealing with geotechnical matters. So we just don't believe that it's necessary, and it's redundant in this case to put it on the title as well. And in fact, it could become concerning to a potential purchaser to advise them of a problem that doesn't truly exist.
Okay. So condition number 3 was for the road widening. We've actually already satisfied this condition as we submitted a registered plan that demonstrated Thomas Argue Road has an existing right of way of 20 meters. So 10 meters measured from center line. With regards to condition 6, that requires a compliant private approach be demonstrated on the severed lands. Again, this could be determined through a subsequent site plan application that we're anticipating for future commercial or industrial development on the lands. With regards to condition 7, which would require the owner to obtain a zoning bylaw amendment that restricts residential development on the severed lands. We believe this would be an additional and unnecessary process, given that there's only one type of dwelling unit proposed. It's for a caretaker or security guard or some other similar type of service on the lands, and it would be assumed to be subsidiary and accessory to a primary non-residential use.
And just to clarify, Mr. Chair, that we're not actually proposing a residential use in this case. We're just looking at marketing the site as an industrial commercial site. It's just a list of one of the permitted uses in the zone. So the zone's been there forever on this site because it was a property that was owned by the city of Ottawa. The city of Ottawa entered into agreement with West Capital to develop the lands for the Carp Airport as such. And it's always been envisioned these would be light industrial uses. So for whatever reason, it's just a legacy zoning that still exists in the property, but there's no intent to do any residential.
But you could do it.
In theory, yes. If somebody
theory, you
wanted
could.
to have a caretaker live in the office building for whatever reason, they could do so. Yes, sir.
Anything further you wish to add?
No, I believe we've addressed everything. We're happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much, both of you. Stay there for a minute, okay? Any questions, comments from planning?
Thank you, Chair. So with regards to removing the road widening condition, planning is satisfied that the road widening requirements have been met. So condition 3 is no longer needed. As for condition 2 about the notice on title for sensitive marine clays, that's a pretty standard condition that we request when our engineering department has identified there are sensitive marine clays. I would not feel comfortable supporting the removal of that condition. As for the private approach, we require this condition to make sure we do not create lots that cannot be adequately accessed. So the planning department does not want to support the lot creation where it cannot be safely accessed. So we required this drawing to ensure that an approach that meets the private approach bylaw is possible for this site. As for the zoning bylaw condition, the Novatech has provided some rationale, and so we would agree with the removal of this condition as well.
Which condition is that? Which number is that?
The zoning condition, I believe, is number 7. I will confirm that. Yeah, number 7.
Yes, I just want to make sure that was on the record as the one that we're talking. Any questions, panel members of planning?
Mr. Chair, so just for clarification, then planning is proposing that conditions number 2 and 6 remain and 3 and 7 can be deleted. Is that correct, Mr. Graham?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Otto.
Yes, I guess this is a question for the planners. The road widening of 10 meters. Is this actually a local road or is this a collector road? Because if it's a collector, and I believe most roads in the city of Ottawa now have been designated as a collector and they're 26 meters or 23 meters wide, I believe it is, not 20, which is the standard 66-foot road widening or allowance.
I believe this is had been identified as a local road, so it's just the 20 meters required.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Chandler.
Private approach permit.
Could you turn your microphone on, please?
The private approach permit, is there actually I'm trying to figure out in what scenario access to this property would not be available. And I don't know if there maybe you want to put a graphic up there, but just given the site and the road frontage and the distance to other access points and roads, I'm not super clear on why that would be a concern to begin with.
It's not necessarily that we're concerned it can't be done. It's just rather that we're requiring this in order to make sure it can be done and we don't create a lot that can't be accessed. So it's not that we think it's overly constrained. We would just prefer to have proof that it can be accessed before creating the lot.
I'd like to know from the applicant, because actually I don't know the answer to this, what the burden is of acquiring a private approach permit, and especially how you would coordinate that with the site plan control process.
So through the chair, the answer to that question is that as you go through a site plan control process, you don't actually have to apply for a private approach permit. You'd only need a private approach permit if you were not going through a site plan process. So we envision that as we come forward with an application, we'll actually figure out where that driveway is going to be, the grading that would be required for it, whether or not there would be a culvert that would be required to access the site. And then that would be reviewed by the city's engineering staff as part of the site plan application. And in this case, the site is level, it's flat. My colleague and I have walked the site. There's virtually no ditch on the property. The existing building that's to the south, which we just severed last year, has a level access going into the property. So we don't envision that there's going to be any problem with access. And the property has 99 meters of frontage on Thomas Argue with which we can play with when we get to the site plan application. So until this time, we'd be just filing an application to theoretically put a driveway. We have no idea as to whether that's where the driveway ultimately should be, because we don't know what the development of the site is going to be until somebody comes forward with a development proposal. Thank you for the time on the answer to that question.
Yes, Ms. Chandler.
So I don't support the private approach permit condition. I think it's unnecessary. It's not a site that we have concerns, even as the city planner said, he's not concerned that there isn't access available. There's a full site plan control process. It creates more work and confusion personally. As far as the sensitive soils notice goes, I agree they're everywhere, but it is also kind of a standard condition. So I'm not gonna start switching up that one now, but I would be happy with removing number 6, the private approach permit.
Planning, please.
Thank you. I would just like to clarify that the condition doesn't require a permit. It just requires a sketch showing that it complies with the bylaw itself. So they don't have to apply for the permit. They just need to provide a sketch showing that it complies with the bylaw.
It sounds like that wouldn't be a lot of work. Is that correct?
That would be my understanding. It would not be a super onerous process.
Applicant, what are your thoughts on that comment?
I agree, Mr. Chair. It's not an onerous process for it's cost, time and money for our engineers to basically produce a sketch, but the value of it is really questionable, given that we don't know if that's exactly the driveway might be, a meter that way or 10 meters that way. It's flat, it's a level site. Whether we put it over there or we put it over there, I don't think that there's going to be much of a difference in the outcome at the end of the day. And we're throwing darts at this point in time. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other question? Yes, Mr. Bever.
Yeah, I don't think the condition is very onerous, to be honest. I think you just have to show that a private approach is available somewhere on the lot. So like, to me, we're creating a new lot. We have to ensure that there is road access available somewhere. So I'm of the mind that condition 6 should stay. And I agree with Ms. Chandler's comments on condition number 2. Those are just my comments.
Any other comments, members of the panel? Planning any further comment at all? No.
No further
Applicant-
comments.
Okay, applicant, you have a final opportunity to make a comment.
No, Mr. Chair, I think this has been a reasonable discussion. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, members of the panel, I think that the issues are, and tell me if I'm wrong, on the standard conditions that will remain or be removed. So maybe we could have a vote on each one of those to see what your feelings are. It's asked that condition number 2 be removed. Could I have a vote? All those in favor of removing condition number 2? Please raise your hand.
Mr. Chair, may I suggest we reserve this to the end?
Yes, if
The
you wish,
decision?
if you wish.
Then we can discuss this in private.
Would that be the same with all the conditions, Mr. Otto?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
reserve the whole thing. to the
Okay.
end.
Well, I've had a request from Mr. Otto to reserve such that we can talk about this on our own. And we will then do that and make a decision on the conditions which are in and which are out. And you'll be advised within 10 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. $710 Coast. Please. We got somebody here. Nobody from 710 Coast?
The agent is online.
Able to see the agent. There we are, Mr. Levine. I can't hear you, Mr. Levine.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? It's Daniel Levine speaking.
Hear you now, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of this committee. Thank you for your time this morning and the consideration of my application for the minor variance for my rear lot at 710 Coast Circle. I'll give you a brief overview. Last summer, we ended up, we built a deck in our backyard. We wanted to maximize our deck and our backyard space. So we ended up building a deck that was larger than 10 by 10. We had did some verifications with regards to permit and the whole structure. We felt that we had met those requirements without having the need for a permit. The goal of our deck was to use the gazebo that was purchased. That was a 14 foot by 14 foot gazebo to be put on the deck. Our backyard is quite small, so we ended up trying to maximize our backyard. We were fortunate enough that at the rear of our yard, we have a swale for the drainage ditch. That swale includes the downslope and the upslopes, which means we have the entire use of the swale. We purchased the materials, we built the deck towards the rear property line to maximize our space. Since then, the company had come, they installed our gazebo. We thought that we were in compliance with everything until the city came looking for a building permit. The last fall, since then, we've been in the process to have a building permit. We've hired an engineer to sign off on our gazebo structure. We've had an engineer sign off on our deck construction. We have also included a hot tub in our backyard, which we required a pool permit for and satisfied the conditions for the city. The last sort of curveball that we weren't expecting was the minor variance with regards to the property line and the desire to have it right against the property line just to maximize everything. We have spoken to our neighbors. Our neighbors have no concerns about our application, nor do they have any concerns about our backyard. Our neighbors themselves have also maximized their backyard to use as much of the space as possible. We have made sure 100% that there is no obstructions in that swale. We have invested a large sum of money in our backyard, and the goal was to make sure that we do not find ourselves with any problems down the road. So we feel that, well, we're hoping that the city feels the same way. Obviously, this is hindsight 2020. We would have never have commenced a project like this had we known that we were in we'd potentially be contravening the city at all. It was just a lack of information on our part, and we did the best that we could, and this is where we are today. So
Okay, thank you very much. Planning indicated it had some concerns.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's correct. So we just have some concerns over the proximity of the deck to the property line, just with privacy with the neighbors, because the deck is a decent ways off the ground, and you could potentially be peeking in over the neighbor's property, that sort of thing. We had some concerns over the swale, but through discussion with the applicant, we're mostly satisfied with those. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. If I could just maybe ask a question. In the cross section of the drawings that we were given, it shows the deck, but it shows a gazebo on that deck. Has that been built?
yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. And planning, is that in compliance with the city bylaws?
Believe the request for the minor variance for the deck, not for the gazebo.
No, I know it's only for the deck. I know the variance is only for the deck. But what I'm wondering is the fact that the gazebo is there is not a breach of any City of Ottawa bylaws or policy. Is that fair to say?
I believe the gazebo is within the proper setbacks. It's just the deck is not.
Okay, thank you. Members of the panel, any questions of the applicant? No. Mr. River?
Just for my information, how high off the ground is the deck? I have a question about maintenance of the drainage swale that is covered by the deck.
Right. So the highest point of the deck, which would be over the drainage swale, is approximately a little under 22 inches. So we have kept that clear. So we've sort of built a bridge over the swale. We have easy access to it. There is no obstruction on the front or the sides of the deck that would prevent anything from rolling through. We just came through a winter where we've checked everything. Everything runs and drains properly. Even after a heavy rainstorm, we've actually been able to go to the corner of our lot and it drains properly into the drainage. So we have ample room should I need to get in there and maintain that area, which is the intention, because as I spoke to before, our goal is to make sure that we do not run into any issues. There's no issues for us getting into there to make sure that we are keeping our grade proper.
Thank you.
Any other questions to the applicant? No? Any questions of the planning staff? Can we go ahead with this or do you want to reserve, Mr. Otto?
Go ahead.
Okay. All those in favor of the application? Granted. Granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, everyone.
And that being the last matter, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair.
So we are adjourned then. Thank you.